So I know your program is deep clean, and one of the things you say is you resolve the root issues of the pornography. It's a research based, obviously biblically backed as well. When you talk about root issues of porn addiction, I mean, in your work, in your practice, in your time in the trenches now, what are some of those root issues that men are struggling with that are leading them to get addicted to pornography?
Great question. It certainly is a bit unique to the individual, and we've sort of designed our system so that people are really identifying their specific root issues. But I would say a couple of the things that we see a lot are number one, feelings of not being good enough, and I shouldn't even just say feelings of it. It's actually believing. They fundamentally believe they're not good enough.
Would you say that's
Fear of
identity?
rejection isn't. Yeah, it is identity. Yeah, and I hope we can get to that. Our system kind of predicates on three pillars, one of which is identity. So I hope we'll get there. But to answer your question, I think, yeah, not feeling good enough. Fear of rejection is another big one. Kind of centers around that same thing. We also see a lot of guys that are caught up in performance thinking, performance belief systems, which is sort of the idea of like I am what I do, and based on how well I do something, that's how valuable I am. So then porn becomes the outlet when you don't perform well, right? You're not feeling good about yourself. You're feeling low. So then you go and find that outlet or whatever. Disconnection, and I would say broken relationships is another big root issue. Not so much the existence of a disconnection, but the inability to manage it or to live with it or to respond in a healthy way. Like my wife and I get into arguments. I would call that disconnection when we're arguing. But we have both built skills to actually talk through it, to confront it, to cope in a healthy way. But if you don't have that, the disconnection becomes a root issue because you learn that anytime you're relating with people and you encounter difficulties, that you shut down or you run away or maybe you go in a fight mode and you make things worse, whatever it is. So that inability to navigate and manage relationships can be a huge root issue. So like I said, it depends from person to person, but generally it's boiling down to fundamental beliefs they have about themselves that are lies. They're
Mm.
completely untrue.
Wow. Yeah, that performance one, that really jumped out at me because I mean that in and of itself, like if you're attaching yourself to your performance and then that's causing you to return back and then once you get there, you're gonna be obviously shame, like it's gonna cause this massive like perpetual shame cycle. I mean, is that kind of where you see that leading to?
Yeah, exactly. So let me set it up a little bit. So identity is one of the pillars that we tackle in deep clean. It's actually the last one of the three. And the pillars all come with a mantra. So for identity, the mantra is I would rather be 100% my true self and rejected than 80% my true self and accepted. So we're teaching guys to really learn to embrace who they really are, even if it means risking rejection, risking misunderstanding, and whatever else it may be. We have a lot of titles in today's day in society. Like if you look on Instagram or Facebook or a business card, it's like, I'm a porn recovery coach, I'm a husband, I'm a whatever. And when we start to slap these labels on us, again, I'm not against any of that. Like if all my profiles are optimized, like I totally get like labeling your stuff. But if we wear that actually internally as our identity, like this is who we are. If I don't, if I don't have my coaching practice, I'm nothing. If I go to that kind of thinking system, then the only way I feel valuable is if I perform well at work. And what it means is that my sense of self is a roller coaster. It's up one day, it's down the next. There's an unpredictability, and that's going to obviously affect the way I treat the people around me, and it's certainly going to affect the decisions I make and how I cope with some of the pains of those low kind of valleys of life. So what we teach guys is to actually find their identity in Christ, because when your identity is defined by relationship, let alone relationship with somebody who will not change their mind, then your value system is reliable. There's a stability to it. And it means that you can add on the other labels of being a coach and being a husband and being whatever else. But fundamentally, you're a son of the living God, and that actually determines your true value there. So that's kind of the whole essence of that identity part.
So that's one of the pillars. What are the other two?
All right, the first pillar is self-awareness. And the mantra for self-awareness is that if you are not aware, it cannot be repaired. So a lot of guys actually have everything is within them that they need to recover. But what I do and what you do as well, Frank, is we help them discover it because there's things going on in them that they don't even know about because nobody's pointed it out to them or they haven't received the guidance to actually build the awareness. So that first step is really identifying the parts that are contributing, the triggers, the environments, maybe the traumas from your past. It's trying to piece all those things together and build an awareness, because once you are aware, then of course it can be repaired. The second pillar is healing, and that's the actual process of working through past traumas. Working through any parts of the past, any bitterness or resentment, unforgiveness you may have. There's a couple of different layers that we go through, but our mantra there is, he who is most vulnerable heals the quickest. And so we really push guys. Our program is an intensive, and we really push guys. Like, the deeper you dive into the vulnerability pool, so to speak, the faster your recovery is going to be. And it's really uncomfortable, but if it's done in a healthy and safe environment, then it's like kind of adding steroids to your recovery process. So between self-awareness, healing, and identity, all of those things wrapped up in a safe environment and regular coaching, we find to be really effective. And that's actually why I wrote the book. We tried to kind of instill the system into a resource that would be just a lot more accessible to the masses.